Welcome to Living Chassidus. Together, let's live the Chassidus we learn.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Chassidus in the Morning. 15 minutes to change our lives. Good to see Chelik Aleph, Vayigash. So we're talking about yesterday, very interesting story, how Yehuda, he goes to Yosef, and he comes to him and speaks to him very brazenly and very forcefully about wanting to get Binyamin, his brother, back. And because he was in charge, but he took a chayas of Binyamin from Yaakov. And the Rebbe asked, and it's sort of an obvious question, why would he do that? He put himself in danger. He doesn't stand a chance against Yosef. It says, even though that it says Yehuda was such a strong person, it says he stamped on the floor in Mitzrayim and everything shook. He goes, but Yosef and his brothers were even stronger. Aram Chal's in Egypt. He wasn't going to be successful, but he was ready for war. And the lesson that is that we're learning from this, that Rebbe's bringing out, is that when it comes to a Jewish child, we do whatever it takes, even to Mesiras Nefesh, for the sake of the child. The child should be brought up in a Jewish environment, and and the chinuch al ta'as hakedesh, teaching him. The Rebbe says, teaching him from a Torah perspective, and I think we can just elaborate on this a little bit. That like chinuch al ta'as hakedesh doesn't mean that the kid doesn't learn any English. It means the whole hanacha, the whole axiomatic way of learning is that there's only Torah mitzvahs. And and I thought about it a lot. Like you can learn a lot of stuff that people would call secular, which is not secular at all. My son, he was doing yesterday. We're doing homework with for the chidon, and was talking about that you take the tefillin, you make it out of the nuts, you make it out of the sinews. So I went and I tried to find a book to show him what sinews are. You sit there, you can have a whole biology class. Or just how to make it tefillin. You can show them what a cow and how the cow things. And I remember I was learning in Rambam Hilchos Shchita, so I could show them the whole system of the cow, what it needs to get shechted, what it needs to get salted. So, but the hanacha, this is the Taras HaKadosh. The hanacha this is all holy, and this is all Hashem's Torah, and let's understand Hashem's Torah, or let's be worldly. Let's make sure we're not nebachs, and this is sort of what the Rebbe was fighting against in this Sikha B'chal, and in general, in the earlier when you read the Rebbe's Sikhas about Al Taras HaKadosh, is fighting this hanacha, this like action that people had, that we have to be like the Joneses to fit in. We don't want to sound, you don't have a Yiddish accent. It's embarrassing, and that's what the Rebbe was pushing for against them. And so we have to be proud to be Yidden, and we teach our children, be proud about them. As we're going to learn in the upcoming days about the yeshiva. We should be proud of this, proud of Jewish education, and for sure, if a person has a proper Yiddish education, the proper education in a proper way, they for sure have the tools for success in life. Begashmis, ruchnis, even more so. As you see, there's plenty of people that went through the yeshiva system that are super, super successful. So the yeshiva system is not a hindrance, chas v'shalom, to anything like that. On the contrary. Yeah, just a side point of that. Okay. That was the first thing we said. And he said, Mesiras Nefesh for a Jewish child. Then we started talking about how finally, in the end of the Pasha, Yosef reveals himself, and his brothers go back to Yaakov, and Yaakov is so happy and excited, and Yaakov is going to Mitzrayim. Hashem says to him, I'm going to be with you. But what does Yaakov do? He sends Yehuda Lefanav, Vesh Yehuda Shalach Leheiris Lefanav Goshna, and it explains it means to set up a yeshiva. That he's going to set up a yeshiva. We can say it's Me'in, the Frierdiker Rebbe, that he always told the Bachar Techmim, even when they're running away from the wall, when they had a free chance to sit down to open up yeshiva, and that's why in Shanghai there was yeshiva. In Shanghai there's a lot of yeshivas, it wasn't just Chabad. But the point is because the yeshiva is the foundation. And so that's what we're talking about. Yeshiva, Yasad Yaakov Avinu, he's kind of Chol Meshach Hazman, Shahayu B'nei Yisrael B'Mitzrayim. The yeshiva that he set up was there for the whole time that the Yidden were in Mitzrayim. Like the Rabbi said, from the times of forefathers, Loi Parsha Yeshiva Mehem. Yeshiva didn't leave from them. They were in Mitzrayim, they yeshiva with them. How do we see? Now, like it says, go and gather the elders of the Yidden, and that's a reference to people that were learning. And we know it's a famous thing that the whole tribe of Levi went in Galus Mitzrayim. They weren't at all Levi. The tribe of Levi went in Galus Mitzrayim. They learned. So there was always learning. Yidden were always learning. All the time, the places that the Jewish people were throughout history. I feel the Galus Mitzrayim, even in the Galus Mitzrayim, the Galus Kashmir, which is a very difficult Galus. How you yeshivas? And they in that they learned the side Torah. Again, like I said, yeshiva is hen yisay b'kiyum shel am Yisrael. But yeshiva is the foundation, and that's what's going to keep the Jewish people in existence. So we're learning here that when we send Mitzvah Hashem at the right time, either we teach in yeshiva, we send our children in yeshiva, and this is not just talking about the yeshiva like for Bachram, but even the younger children. That is the foundation of Yiddishkeit. This is what's going to keep Yiddishkeit going. And what we have to realize is when we send our kids to a Jewish school, a Yiddish school, and they're not just Talmud Torah, as Rebbe says, meaning it's a half day, a little bit, but the focus is on their secular studies. We're saying the focus on the kid being brought up as a proud Jew, that he's a servant of Hashem. That is what keeps Judaism alive. And we're gonna get into this a little more. Daled. Galus Mitzrayim hosts the Galus Kasha b'Yosem Mikol Galus. So the Galus Mitzrayim was the most difficult of all the Galusim, and we're going to explain. We're going to give 4 reasons why. Av min Galus and Nechachis, even from our Galus we're in now, which has been for so long, still Galus Mitzrayim was worse in a few ways. Come and see this. So first of all, Galus Mitzrayim hosts living in Matan Torah. First of all, before Matan Torah, Galus Mitzrayim. Even they did learn Torah before Matan Torah. As we see in many places, and like we see ourselves in that they never lost the yeshiva in their lives. They were always learning Torah. Being that the Torah they learned was with their own strength, meaning it was coming from themselves. It wasn't coming from a nation, it was from Hashem. So therefore is limited to the amount that we can understand. The more we can understand, the more we can reach. Ultimately that reaches the maximum we can reach, which is nowhere near the maximum we can reach from Hashem's perspective. Meaning when we're learning Torah, it's Hashem, it's coming from Hashem, and we're connected to Hashem, so we can reach as high as Hashem let us reach. But when it's coming from ourselves, it's good and it's nice, but it's limited to ourselves. So even though they learned Torah, but it was before the Torah was given, before the nation of Hashem was really invested in it in a real way, and so therefore they were limited into how much of an impact it could have had on themselves, on the world around them, and things like this. That was the first reason why the Galus Mitzrayim was worse. Secondly, Galus Mitzrayim had Galus Rishon Sheisal. The second reason was worse was the first Galus. That's why it's very difficult to withstand it. Like someone unfortunately has something not so good happen to him. It's very difficult the first time. But then it happened the second time, so it's difficult. Like Fisher Kavar, he struggled, we just got used to it. Meaning, the first time you do something is always very difficult. Even whatever, you want to go somewhere. The first time you're going there, you don't know how to get there, it's hard. The second time, a lot easier. And even in our case, the first time something, bad happens, or not so good, the first time you go to the dentist is very difficult. But then you go, let's say you go for a filling, so you go to get checked out. The first time it's very scary. And the second time it's not as bad. I already know what I'm getting into. I know what's going on. The Galus Mitzrayim, here we're in Galus, but we know there's Galus. We know there's Achar Galus. We know there's Yetzias Mitzrayim. But they didn't have that. They just had Galus. So it's very scary. That's another reason why Galus Mitzrayim was worse. And Gimel, the Mitzrayim, how you call Yisrael Yachad. Another issue why the Galus was the worst, because we were all together in one place. The Galus boys in the other Galus in like now. Is a kindness Hashem did to us, that He spread us out amongst the nations. Because therefore, when we're in different places, Kishim Yehudim Makim Echad, and Yehudim Makim Achel Heshivrach. When one Yid can't do something in one place, then you in another place. Let's say, for example, in times of Kamas Rasha, the Yidden behind the iron curtain weren't able to turn mitzvahs. To us, our doing fulfilling turning mitzvahs, we were helping them. Because they're all independent, and we can help the other. Whereas in Mitzrayim, they're all together. So we can help them when they're in somewhere else, then they're in a hard place. Whereas Mitzrayim were under the one rulership. So if we say the Yidden can't do a certain mitzvah, let's say they can't bench lulav, that means all the Yidden in the world. Whereas now, so the Yidden in Russia can't bench lulav necessarily, but we could do it. And that's why we can help each other out. So that's another one called Mitzrayim. It's worse. So we have it's worse because before Matan Torah, so it wasn't able to reach as deep and as high as we can now. Second of all, it was a first galus, which is very difficult. Just like in experience, the first experience is much more difficult than the second, even if it's a negative one. But the first one was worse. And thirdly, because we're all stuck in one place. Whereas when we're spread out, so we can help each other. And the fourth, Mitzrayim Eretz Kasha Moed. Mitzrayim was a very hard place. Even it says, even a servant was able to leave from them. Here we have 600,000 people, besides the men, the women, and the children. 600,000 men leaving. You have millions of people trying to leave in a place that not even one person can leave. Nevertheless, with all these difficulties, which we're saying Mitzrayim was the worst for all these reasons. It was the worst because it was the first, it was the worst because it was before Matan Torah, it was the worst because we were all stuck together, it was because we couldn't even leave. And nevertheless, Lamdu Kal Limeres Kal Kishim, even though with all these difficulties, they still always learned. Hamid Hayu Yeshivas, Vahed Yashu Lamdu Torah. There's all yeshivas they sat and they learned Torah. They didn't sit and learn Torah for a year and take up a gap year from before they went to college. They sat and they learned Torah because they understood that learning Torah keeps the existence of the Jewish people. And that's what we're saying here. And this is very important. So you're going to say to yourself, I'm going to go. What am I learning Torah? What I'm going to yeshiva? I'm not going to yeshiva. I went to seminary for a year. It's finished. But I think it's a very important understanding for ourselves of when we look at yeshiva, what is yeshiva and what's the purpose? Yeshiva is not like a college. It's not like, university. You go for a few years, you get a diploma, I finish yeshiva and I'm good. Yeshiva is kihem chayenu. This is our life. This is what keeps us going. This is what keeps Jewish people alive. When we get to the stage when either we're teaching in a yeshiva environment or we're sending our kids to a yeshiva type school, especially when they get older, people are going to think to themselves, "Oh, what's going to be my kid's education? What's going to be with his diploma? Is it going to be a butler? Is it going to be a nebach?" To realize life is more important than that. For sure, he's not going to be. If we raise our kids properly, that we won't have that. But more than that, the yeshiva is the foundation of Jewish people. And if we're not going to send our kids to the yeshiva, then who is? Just to finish it off, we'll finish it off here. There's a story to appreciate this idea. There's a story that there was one time, I don't remember exactly how this came about, but basically someone came to it was in the Kamas Rasha, and they came to a Rav. It wasn't a Lubavitcher Rav. I don't remember if I was about hiring which Rav should they hire for the town, and they asked the Rashab, and he said, "Let the Misnagdish Rav, he can become the Rav of the town. Don't worry, you have to get the Chassidish Rav." So they were very shocked. Normally in those days you had like two Rabbanim, the Misnagdish Rav and the Chassidish Rav. And the Rashab said, "You can have the Misnagdish Rav, don't worry about it." So what happened? One of the communism came, of course, and this guy came to the Rav, and he asked me, he said, "I'm in trouble, I have to work on Shabbos. What do I do about it?" The Rav sat there and he thought about it. And he said, "What's your job? What do you have to do and how you do it?" And he came up with all these ways how he could work on Shabbos, and he wouldn't be work, and he'd be, he cried with him, he felt bad for him, and he helped him out. And then when the guy left, he appreciated it, he figured out a way he can keep a job in the Parnasa, because communist Russia, communism is that you're not an individual, you're just part of a whole. So you have to do what's best for everyone. Nothing going to do with you. Even though for you it's not good to work in Shabbos, we don't care about you in Shabbos. And if you don't work on Shabbos, you're going against, you're saying you don't care about everyone else. So it's a very big avera. So therefore, that's why it's very difficult. It wasn't like, I'm not going to work. You're not going to get a job. You look down upon as a bad person. You're not caring about the whole. You're an individualist, and that's against what we stand for in communism. So that's what happened. Then comes a guy that he wanted to turn to him, and he had the same issue. He also got forced to work at Shabbos. He didn't know what to do, and he asked the Rav, and then starts thinking, and trying to help him out. And as he finishes, the Rav says, one second, where'd you learn? Well, which yeshiva you go to? So he said, I went to Temchet Tzimimim. He goes, you went to Temchet Tzimimim? He goes, and I don't, in no way I give you any heter to work on Shabbos. There's no way about it. You can't work on Shabbos. You have to miss nefesh. You can't go. So he's like, what? But the other guy, you gave him. He goes, he didn't learn in Temchet Tzimimim. You learn Temchet Tzimimim. You are a soldier on the front line. You can't do it this way. And this is the purpose of the yeshiva. The yeshiva, especially the yeshiva Temchet Tzimimim, that Mitzvah Hashem, we're all going to send our kids, or our kids are already going. And the upbringing that we are meant to instill in our kids is that we're the frontline soldiers. And if you want Judaism to exist, and you think about it very simply, if it wasn't for the Rebbe and the Rebbe's army, what would Judaism look like today? Imagine, what is that, 70 years ago, 80 years ago now, 70 years ago, since the Rebbe took up leadership over 70 years. Imagine, Chas Shalom, that wouldn't have happened. Imagine we just, Lubavitch wouldn't be today. Where would the Jewish world be today? Chalil v'chas, you don't want to know. But that comes from the soldiers in the Rebbe's army that come and learn Temchet Tzimimim. And this is the purpose of the yeshiva. And this is what we've got to realize. When we're sending our kids to yeshiva, we're not just sending them to yeshiva to get a diploma or degree, or they can learn how to learn, but it's meant to transform them into leaders and to transform the world. Mitzvah Hashem, by all of us, we should realize this, and we should internalize this, and we should have an amazing day. Have a great day.